What's going on? Good evening. We're back.
What's up? What's up? How's your day going? How was the birthday?
Man, it was good. It was good. Big 31, man. Big 31.
Ain't mad at it. Uh,
Going on, y'all?
Going on, Jalen?
Not much.
Good to see you. Good to see you. I thought maybe since you posted that viral content, we might not hear from you. I thought you might Hollywood on us for a minute.
Nah, man. I'm gonna keep on posting, man.
Good, it's good. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
oh,
Um, all right, we go ahead and get started. A couple announcements and whatnot. Just bear with. I'll give everybody like one more minute. And then we'll kick things off. I want to make sure everybody knows what to expect. All right. Who we got here? We got Jay.
okay.
We got Jalen. Who else we got? We got
Okay.
DJ Hunter. What's going on, DJ?
How's it going, bro?
Oh,
Pleasure talking to you this morning.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. That's the Udo or you're the
Yeah,
brother?
yeah, no, that's me.
Oh, what's up, bro? I'm like,
What's good?
oh snap. I wasn't sure if I was gonna get you tonight. What's going on?
You good? You good? Nah, I think I still tap in. My meeting, I got to teach at like 8, but I'm still
Okay.
prepping right
All
now.
right. All right, cool. Oh, we got a very special guest in the building. I'm excited. Definitely want everybody to tap in. So we're gonna get started in just a minute. Hey, Dynasty.
Hello.
See, this is why it's important to practice like you would in a game, right? That's why it's important because you never know who might pop in. You never know who might pop in. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen in just a second. Um, go ahead and jump right into it. So let me make sure I'm gonna go ahead and start here. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
All right. All right, so I can't believe it's the last day of the month. So tomorrow, I believe, I'm not mistaken, officially kicks off October, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Um, So that's really exciting. We'll go through just a couple housekeeping items and then I want to dive right into some upcoming dates because there's going to be some changes to our normal schedule this month for obvious reasons, like with the accelerator programs. But anyway, that's neither here or there. So shift turnover report for 9:30. I have Jalen Dynasty on the call. Duda, pleasure to have you here. I'll go ahead and introduce him in just a second. System health checks. I have CrowdStrike, QRadar, and SOCBite up and running. Looks like those no issues there in terms of health checks. General announcements. I'm not going to go through over all this stuff because you guys know this already. I did message a few of you on the side, so I did message you, Dynasty. What's going on, John? I see you popped in. Both of you need to make sure that you update me on the videos, and just to kind of go back and reiterate where you guys can find those so there's no confusion. But if you come inside recordings in the drive and then you go to VSOC folder and then these are the required trainings that you all should be completing within the first 30 days. Any questions on that?
Okay, I don't have those videos. You kept saying videos. Yeah, those I don't have those.
I see you right here. This
Yeah,
is you, right?
yeah.
Okay, so
I
to
don't know
get
why I didn't. I don't know what happened. I didn't receive those. I don't know why I didn't receive.
so you have access to the drive, right? So you're familiar with where I'm at, right? Because I see you have access to this drive. I made sure that, and I can see
Yes.
your email. So all you have to do once you're in the Cythority VSOC folder is if you click in recordings and then you go to the fourth folder, it's called VSOC Incubator. These are the recordings that you're supposed to be going through in order. So it's literally labeled 1 through 11. All right, and this is a required training. All right, so I need you
Okay.
guys to be getting this done as soon as possible because you're supposed to complete within the first 30 days. Now, in addition to that, you guys should also be going into this course and completing all of these modules. And it really walks you through your LinkedIn, your resume, all right, how to network, all right, everything from A through Z on all of your career documents. So your resume, your LinkedIn cover letter, interview coaching, job search strategy. We give you everything right here, but we actually provide a template for you. And you can see here, there's a template. All you got to do is make a copy. Everything has been curated for you. The bullet points for this experience has already been done for you. You just have to plug and play all the experience that you have transferable from before you joined our organization. Okay, so that is something you have to do. And then I asked all of you to then hyperlink your documents, okay, in this turnover. So I made you a section, John, all right, and you can
Okay.
see resume. You're supposed to hyperlink your resume with enabling edit permissions for myself. Hyperlink your LinkedIn, your cover letter, as well as your YouTube channel. Everyone's been is required to make a YouTube channel. Okay, so
Okay.
I need you to do that. And Dynasty, I already gave you feedback on the template that you used. That was the incorrect one, but that shouldn't be too difficult. But I just showed you guys how to get it. Any questions on that?
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
I got that.
All right, cool. Very, very important stuff. Now, in terms of other announcements for this month, so we have an accelerator program kicking off across 3 schools. And so there's going to be some overlap. Okay, there's going to be some overlap. So we're going to modify. In addition to that, we also have a campaign running for a masterclass series. So for the month of October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we're doing the accelerator program, which, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be kicking off. Pull up my calendar here. Looks like this is going to be kicking off on next week on I believe on the 8th. Don't quote me on that. But I will just keep an eye out for announcements. So during those time when we're running the accelerator program, you guys will be we won't be having our normal shifts. Okay, I'll make an announcement again. This would just be for the month of October. So you guys have tons of other things to be doing in addition to just obviously what we normally do. But in terms of content, in terms of other materials and documents that you guys could be working on, which we know is at least 1/3 of the overall output is content strategy, right? Job search strategy trackers, all those things we talk about on a regular. So just keep an eye out because you guys will not be expected to join during those hours when we have the accelerator program. And when I have the concrete solidified dates, I'll make sure to let you know. In addition, on Monday, starting the 6th, we're going to be running a Cyber Monday campaign. You all are free to join that, but there will be that I want to say like the first like 30 minutes of our 7 o'clock shift will be slightly modified. So again, just pay attention to the announcement that I have coming for you guys, and that shouldn't be a problem. Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
All right. Cool. All right. So, couple other things I want to touch on today before we jump in is the importance of preparing for an interview. Okay. I'm actually preparing for a couple interviews right now. I have 2 tomorrow and 3 this week. And so what I'm noticing, and these are for positions that are like senior positions. So they're not like entry level roles. Like the starting salary on some of these roles are like 250K for like senior manager roles, right? So some of them are like even, I'm not saying out of reach, but like these interviews are requiring me to even prepare, right? And I have 10 years of experience. So what I'm saying is when you are preparing for an interview, it's extremely important to have notes, right? All right, to have notes. And I've been taking notes and I've been writing down talking points because in security operations, it's almost impossible to just on the fly, on the whim, speak to what we've done in the last, for me, 10 years, right? And pull from my data bank. I think a combination of just being a parent, working night shift, right, drinking from a fire hose, 100 miles an hour, the immense volume of false positives. It's just really hard for me to be able to pull different scenarios, incidents, and instances where I've done X, Y, and Z or A, B, C. So what you need to do, and this is something that is a consistent, right, iteration. It's not something that you do once and then you put it down. Like if you start a new job, which for example, someone like Justin in our community just started a new job at CoreWeave, right? He was unemployed 5 months ago. Now he started a new job. It will be extremely important for him within the first 3 months that he tracks every single thing that he does, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to spend the whole entire year in a role and not capture your success stories, your accomplishments, and your impact that you've had, right? Because what could end up happening is you're at a role, maybe you get furloughed, maybe you get terminated. Now you got to scramble. I got to do update my resume. What did I do? What did I do? What was that project? What was that? What was that? And now you're grasping for straws when instead, while you're on the job, maybe you take note maybe every month or every quarter of some of your accomplishments, tools that you've used, alerts, incidents that you've spearheaded is critical, because in an interview, when you're speaking to someone who doesn't know you from a hole in the wall or a can of paint, they're going to want to know specific instances where you, for example, managed an incident. Give me an example of a time where you pushed back against a security policy, right? These are instances where like you got to have some talking points because you don't want to be literally like, cat got your tongue and you can't speak to it, right? That would be the worst case scenario. And you are more likely than not qualified, but right, whoever performs in the interview, whoever can sell themselves is going to get the job, right? That's just a fact. So that's why they say interview prep is practice, 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 because you got to practice. And a lot of people aren't comfortable, right, speaking on camera. A lot of people aren't comfortable, speaking in front of people. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, public speaking is like the number one fear of everybody. Over heights, over death, people are afraid to speak. So when you're sitting in front of someone who doesn't know you and they're asking targeted questions, you want to sound like you've prepared. You want to sound scripted, but you want to have these talking points at the forefront of your data bank so you're prepared and so you can highlight your success, your accomplishments, and your impact. All right. And so I'm not even going to talk about STAR method or none of that stuff, because I think everybody should be able to at least follow that formula of taking note of 5 different investigations that you've worked on. 5 investigations. Give me an example of an incident that you worked. Okay, a phishing instance. That could be one example where an alert generated and you want to talk to them from start to finish. So that was an alert that generated for phishing. What were the steps that you've taken? Well, I analyzed the alert. I took note of the user, the source, destination IP address, the host name, the sending email. I viewed the contents of the email, looked for any links, attachments. I ran those links in OSINT. These are the tools that I used, right? I took the URL or the document or the file, the downloaded file, and I detonated it in a sandbox. I looked for redirects, saw that it was a credential harvesting, right? So these are things that you're going to want to be able to speak to. So write them down, hand notes, old school, and be able to speak to specific incidents, okay? Specific incidents. If you don't have any, go chat GPT some. You guys can't not have any because we have all the tools in our environment that you can pull from and filter on, right? And we'll talk. We'll go in there in just a second and show you guys. But this is really important. So have 5, okay? Take notes. 5 incidents for you to be able to speak to. because you may speak to a panel and one person may want to know, hey, give me an example of an incident that you worked from start to finish. Give me an example of an incident that you made the wrong decision, right? Or give me an example of what, whatever. And you want to just have a couple different scenarios where you worked true positives, not a false positive, something that was a nothing burger. That's what we call those in tech, right? When you spend an hour or two investigating just to find out, oh, this is expected activity. They were doing maintenance. Okay, false positive, nothing burger, right? You just wasted 2 hours of your time thinking you were down a rabbit hole and found something malicious, but in fact, it was just engineering doing an automated expected maintenance, routine, and it triggered an alert, and you thought you caught somebody doing something bad, but it's expected and legitimate activity. They're going to be doing this for the rest of the week. So now that's called a nothing burger. You don't want to speak about that in an interview. You want to speak about the true positive. You want to speak about the time. And this is a real story. And I'm actually in the process now of going back into the tickets that I've worked, filtering on true positives and refreshing the talking points of a true positive. So I was on shift one weekend, and it was just me. My partner called out. It's just me monitoring multiple client environments. That's the benefit of working in a managed security service provider environment, is you have multiple clients. So you're not just working in one instance of CrowdStrike. You're working in two instances of CrowdStrike, three instances of QRadar, and two instances of Splunk, all at the same time. So you have your eyes on a ton of different glasses at once, right? You got your hands in everything. And an alert triggered for one of our clients where I saw the activity was pretty sketchy. I was like, this doesn't seem legit. It seems like this is not normal. And so I collected the artifacts. I wrote up my report. I escalated this to the customer and I reported on it, right? Essentially is what I'm saying. I reported it as malicious and I said, this needs to be investigated further because this is what I found that doesn't seem right. Long story short, right? That morning, as I was getting off, the incident escalated to critical because there was an ongoing ransomware attack, and because of the investigation and the escalation on my part, we ended up being on a 24-hour bridge call for 2 months, which means literally every single day, an ongoing around-the-clock call never ended for 2 months. And because of that, because of my ability to spot the anomaly, the client renewed the contract that what they weren't planning to renew because they felt really favorable about our monitoring, and they were very appreciative that we helped identify this suspicious activity that resulted in them finding out they had a ransomware attack. And what happened is they renewed a contract that was worth $40 million annually. And that weekend, that following week that I escalated this incident, I was promoted to lead analyst over two of my colleagues who've been at the company for a total of 18 years, and I've only been on the job for 11 months. That's my point. So here I am now. I can get into an interview and speak to this, highlight my success, my accomplishments, and cultivate my impact. What was the impact? Well, I got a $40 million contract reinstated that wasn't going to be renewed. And I was promoted to lead analyst on my shift. So but again, if I don't prepare, if I don't, again, revisit the work I did, I'm not even going to remember what I did, because in cyber, there's so much volume. We're drinking from a fire hose 24/7, 25/8, 100 miles an hour. So you guys have to do the due diligence and have 5 incidents, true positives that you've worked. Leverage our environment, leverage our tech stack, leverage ChatGPT and AI to create these scenarios. Take your talking points down and speak to them with confidence. All right? Confidently. That's how Jay on the call was able to go and attract a recruiter from BlackRock last week, only to come and find out he's overqualified. That's a conversation for another time. But that confidence is key. All right. Cool. I'm glad you guys know it. The second thing I want to point out in regards to preparing for an interview, and this is critical, okay, is you want to be up to speed on the latest and greatest that's happening in cyberspace. I know this for a fact. I tell you guys this all the time, but staying up to date on the latest news, events, incidents, breaches in cyber is critical. It's critical because if you're asked about a recent vulnerability that was just released, like for example, if I say Dynasty, What was the latest vulnerability that was just released? Critical common vulnerability and exposure that was just released by the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. You would tell me what? I don't want to see your eyebrows. I want to make sure you here with me now. Now all of a sudden she's double mute. Now we
Yeah,
double muted.
my
When
mute
when the
button.
questions pop up, all of a sudden we're triple muted now.
My mute button.
What was that? What was the latest vulnerability CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, just announced? Do you know? It's okay if you
No,
don't.
I don't.
And I didn't know either. I didn't know until I looked it up for 5 minutes just to take a peek at what's happening. It was a sudo vulnerability. Okay, a sudo vulnerability in a permission that allowed remote execution and lateral movement and privilege escalation. So it's just that right there. Just knowing the fact that CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency (CISA), announced a critical vulnerability in sudo, which is a super user command in Linux. If just me knowing that makes it come off as if I have my hands in everything and I'm aware and I'm staying up to speed, right? I didn't do nothing but read about 5 minutes, and I built the GPT in ChatGPT to give me an overview of all of the latest news events and breaches in cyber coming from specifically ingested data points. So I said, all right, I want to know from Bleeping Computer, Dark Reading, Hacker News, Cyber Social, and I literally specified all of the data points that I wanted it to ingest, and I said, give me a summary of these, and that's how I can literally, right? I can literally pull up right here. This is my cyber threat daily brief, and I can literally say, okay, look, give me today's cyber brief, and I can go, okay, cool, boom, top developments right here, right? And you can see here, a critical pseudo flaw, CVE, confirmed to be exploited in the wild, triggering urgency for patching across Linux, Unix environments, right? So having an understanding of what's going on in cyber, which again, this takes just a little bit of effort, but it's not nothing, right? That little bit of effort can make all the difference, because if you don't have anything to say, especially if you're not working and you don't know what's going on, if you're not working, you got all the time in the day. You better know everything going on, right? But again, you guys aren't coming off as if someone who doesn't have experience, because you guys obviously are contractors of Cythority. So it would be foolish of you not to be able to speak to, yeah, I heard about did you hear about the new critical pseudo flaw that was just announced by CISA? Oh yeah. Actually, we have our engineering team, working cross-functionally with our SOC to make sure that we don't have any vulnerabilities like that. We have our vulnerability management team working to make sure none of those vulnerabilities exist in our environment. So now you are trustworthy, right? And that takes little to no effort. Little to no effort. 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day can keep the haters away. 5 minutes a day can keep the rejection letters away. You hear me, right? Just 5 minutes. So there's that. Okay. So those are two things that are critical. You need 5 incidents that you can pull from, 5 incidents that you can speak to. You need to make sure that you're keeping up to date with cyber news events and incidents that are ongoing. You can do that looking at Bleeping Computer. You can do that looking at any open source, media news, reading a vendor threat vendor research report. It can be from anyone, but just know what's happening in cyberspace at all times, and it takes 5 minutes a day. Okay. Perfect. So I just wanted to touch on that. There's probably a couple other things that I'll probably mention in addition to that as things unravel for me. So other than that, I want to take a moment real quick, and I want to pivot and give Jay an opportunity. Jay, how is the OWASP top 10 framework deck looking? Are you ready to rock and roll?
You stay ready, you don't gotta get ready.
Yeah, I didn't expect anything less. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to share your screen, and I want you to take the floor and walk us through this framework. And I actually did some review of this framework today too, because I saw that frameworks was going to be something that may potentially pop up in the interview. How did I know that? All you got to do is take the role, All right, concatenate that with the company and then append Glassdoor. And if you search that in Google, let's just say cybersecurity engineer, and you type in cybersecurity engineer and then you type in Amazon and then Glassdoor in Google, you'll populate a Glassdoor interview prep guide from people who have interviewed for the same role at Amazon. And they'll give you feedback on the interview, the types of questions, rate the difficulty, and give you tips on what specific questions Amazon asks. Because different companies will ask specific questions according to their industry, their niche, their business, right? So you want to be a little bit more familiar. So that's just some of the things that I did. So Jay's going to walk us through exactly what he has. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, did you just drop it in the chat, or is that your GPT you built?
No, that's a quick article I found. I looked at 3 different ones. That was the best one I could find on like how to build out GPTs, just for anybody that was kind of interested. Because that's when you was talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I need to look that up. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I need
It
that.
doesn't look like it's lit. It looks like the page is not available, but that's fine. What you guys can do is just go into ChatGPT and you can literally, it walks you through how to do that, like how to
Right.
build one. But
Um,
see your screen coming up here in just a minute.
oh no, I think I said the wrong one.
I can see OWASP framework.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, I said the right one. All right. So the OWASP framework. First of all, the gamma for everybody that's up next on doing the deck and the slideshows, game changer.
Yep.
Game changer. I ain't even gonna hold you. I ain't never going back to
I told you.
right. I was like, hold on, like, yeah, this is a whole game changer. Like PowerPoint who? So
Right.
so yeah, FYI. But the OWASP framework, what is OWASP? First and foremost, I wanted to kind of dive into some different sections of it, but I wanted to always start, make sure I start with the history of it. So it's an open source, open web application security project founded in 2001, community-driven initiative focused on improving software security worldwide. So starting off, its function was to just improve software security, which was the basis of why it was formed. So why does it matter? Well, free, everybody loves free. So open standard provides accessible security frameworks without vendors locked in or expensive licensing fees. I think we all know how insane those licensing fees could get, especially when you're looking at stuff from a business standpoint, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to protect your business and you got a couple of employees under your belt now, they can really get up there. So free is always good, but trusted is even better when you're talking about free. So it serves as a reliable resource for both technical teams and business stakeholders in making security decisions. This is one of the most important parts when you're talking about OWASP. You'll see this a lot. The OWASP top 10, top 10 vulnerabilities. You'll see this, like you'll also see a lot of analysts in the field talk about the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. And when you do come across those OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, don't take them for granted. Don't turn a side eye at it, and just kind of brush it under the rug as they speak. Make sure you kind of just do a deep dive in it. But the OWASP top 10 represents the most critical web application security risks. It's updated regularly based on industry data and expert analysis. And because it's updated regularly, it kind of falls back on the importance of, like TJ was saying, of us just staying up to date within the industry, of knowing the latest of what's going on in cybersecurity. Because by knowing that, you will probably be able to revert it back, and more than likely, some way or another, it will probably land in one of the top 10 vulnerabilities. When you're talking about the top 10 vulnerabilities, we have broken access control, cryptographic failures, which is just weak encryption or missing data protection in transit, injection attacks, malicious code inserted to applications, insecure data, or poorly architect systems, lacking security from the foundation, security misconfiguration, default settings, mispatches, etc., vulnerable components or outdated libraries and third-party softwares with known security flaws. Very big one here that we probably see a lot, authentication failures. Weak login securities allowing unauthorized access to accounts. Data integrity failures, another one there, compromised code or supply chain attacks affecting software integrity. Logging in and monitoring failures or insufficient detection and alerting when security incidents do occur. And server-side request forgery. Now, this was one I still got to look up. I'm not gonna lie, this was one that stood out to me. Like I had a question mark on it, but I never got around to really looking it up. But tricking servers into making unauthorized requests to the internal systems. I thought that was very interesting just by the definition alone, but I never got around to looking it up. So that was one that I definitely wanted to do a little bit more deep dive into.
Can I interject for 1 second? Jay, can you just pull the previous slide back up you were just reading from? I think this is an important talking point. So we're talking about vulnerabilities. Okay. So when we write our reports, we have we write our threat hunts, right, which are our alerts, and then we write our advisories. Now, our advisories are what typically cover vulnerabilities, right? What's another way we refer to the vulnerabilities? CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures, right? We also have talked a lot about the MITRE attack framework and TTPs, which are tactics, techniques, and procedures. Everything maps back to MITRE, and you'll see what I'm saying here in just a minute. But if you look at these top 10 vulnerabilities, what is, in layman's terms, in 3 words or 4 words, 1 sentence, what is a vulnerability? Dynasty. Dynasty,
you always on me.
I got to, girl. Come on. What's a vulnerability? Because when I ask a question, you'll be like this. But I can only see your eyeballs. I'm like, oh,
I'm reading the screen and everything. Okay.
What's a vulnerability? Simple terms. Easy.
Simple terms. A vulnerability is something that people can easily, I guess, I would say, like, access, or something that could be a target, or yeah.
So a vulnerability is essential. If something is vulnerable, is it strong?
No.
It's what?
It's
weak. So let's just say a vulnerability is a weakness in a system.
Okay.
That's a vulnerability, right? Leaving your back door open is a vulnerability. Having a broken arm is a vulnerability, right? So it's essentially a weakness in the system. That's fair? Now, what is an attacker or an adversary? Simple term.
Dynasty, or anybody can take it.
Anybody. You go ahead. She phoned a friend. Anybody. What's
somebody that looks for ways to expose those vulnerabilities.
Exactly. So attacker's a bad guy, an adversary, and a bad entity, right? So you have attackers or adversaries, and you have weaknesses in systems, aka vulnerabilities. Now, what has to take place in order for that weakness to be successful? What has to take place? An attacker has to do something to a vulnerability. Attacker, vulnerability,
exploit it.
Exactly. So attackers, adversaries, cyber criminals exploit vulnerabilities, which creates risk, which ultimately has impact. I'm gonna say it again. An adversary, a bad guy, a threat actor, APT-48, North Korea, Russia, China, they exploit a vulnerability, pseudo CVE 2025-348-256, and that vulnerability creates a risk and has a impact, and that impact equivalates to $signs. Now, if you're like Dauda, who's a nurse, works in healthcare, those $signs can equal human life, right? If a healthcare hospital gets hit with a ransomware attack and they want 100 or 1,000 Bitcoin, and now you got a hospital's network that's been taken down and people are connected to defibrillators, it's hard to negotiate people's lives. Okay. So, um, anyway, just wanted to touch on that. I thought that was important to point out, right? We're talking about vulnerabilities, but we need to know what a vulnerability is. A vulnerability is just a weakness. You need an attacker to do some sort of action to the vulnerability, right? And that is they have to exploit it, okay? And so they exploit a vulnerability, and their method for exploiting that vulnerability can be a variety of different things. And then once they exploit that vulnerability, it creates a risk, and that risk has an impact, which has dollar signs associated with it. All right. I just wanted to bring that all home. Jay, you can go ahead and continue. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out.
Gotcha. Perfect segue into the next slide though, which is real world impact, which TJ really harped on just now. But I think to add on to that real world impact, I mean, it don't get no higher than, you know, life impacting, but dollar signs, of course, but also jobs, people's livelihood, information, finances. So the impact is definitely a very impactful situation, or could be if someone exposed those vulnerabilities to any degree for that matter. But the breach prevention, the highest profile attacks exploit OWASP's top 10 vulnerabilities, 83% on the breach prevention. It's cheaper to fix vulnerabilities early versus post-breach recovery. Hence, which I believe why we do the research that we do and looking for those different vulnerabilities and being proactive from a proactive standpoint. So definitely saving money there. Average breach cost, yeah, 4.4. I'm gonna just say million because we don't put the points in front of things other than millions or billions. But
You're right.
So yeah, OWASP in the industry standard. Today's referred by the leading frameworks, PCI DSS, PCI payment, Visa. When you think about MasterCard, payment card industry, NIST. This was a new one for me, National Institute of Standards and Technology Guidelines. So that was a new one to me. I'm pretty sure somebody that's kind of, I guess, if anybody got in there like CISSP, they would probably learn a lot about framework, and they would probably know a lot about the National Institute of Standard and Technology. So as far as like industry standard goes, OWASP definitely touch on and harp on different sectors from financial services, healthcare, all the way down to government, which is three, if not the top, you know, a very big three when you thinking about an economy. You're talking about sectors. So how organizations use OWASP. This was a very good one for me as far as a learning point. Developers, training and reference guide for sourcing code practice and vulnerabilities, prevention during development. Security teams, foundation of threat modeling, penetration testing strategies, and security assessment frameworks. From the security teams standpoint, I can kind of, I was kind of able to really relate that to some of what we do. Just with the couple of weeks that I've been in the program and taking advantage of everything. From an executive standpoint or a high level standpoint, risk prioritization tool for understanding and communicating security investments and business impacts. And from the auditor standpoint, standardized measurement, basically compliance from an auditor standpoint. Some of the key takeaways when you think about OWASP, trusted global framework. OWASP provides universally recognized standards for software security. A universal language, that's a big one there. The top 10 list creates a common vocabulary for discussing application security risks. Like I said, you probably, if you was to go like on LinkedIn and just type in OWASP top 10, flood, you would probably see a plethora of articles and and everything that individuals has typed up using that exact, like that verbatim. You know, you'll see OWASP top 10 verbatim. So, and then, you know, the list goes on from there. Industry adoption, widely implemented across sectors to improve security posture. So, different sectors, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in finance, whether you might be in education, it's one of those things where you'll see kind of crossover into different sectors as well. And then the bridge communication, it helps align business leaders and technical teams on security priorities and investment. So basically, in other words, to me, what I got from that is if I can, you know, they at least probably have some type of understanding of OWASP. If they don't, they probably won't know in depth. But if you can break it down to where maybe a sixth or seventh grader could understand it, right? It's one of those topics that you can break down and execs will understand, or anybody in different levels of leadership should be able to take what you're trying to convey to them and put it in a way to where everybody understands it across the board. And that's very important when you start getting into meetings and relaying information to different people in different departments. So when it comes to OWASP, gives us a roadmap. But any questions, call outs, concerns?
I think that was great. Definitely
That
helpful.
concludes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dynasty.
No,
No, I was just saying this is good. I don't the OWASP, I guess, like searching for a job, like when I look for jobs and things like that on LinkedIn, I haven't seen a lot of OWASP like requirements, I guess. Like um I've seen a lot of the NIST and the other, what was that one?
It's out there for sure. You'll see the ISO
ISO, yeah, that one.
27001. You'll see NIST framework, MITRE framework, but OWASP is definitely out there and
I
relevant.
haven't seen OWASP a lot, but I have seen it, but not a lot, like to Dynasty's point.
Yeah. It'll come up. Trust it. It will come up. And you know, you should definitely be aware of it. So, which is why we had this on our agenda. And it's a great, man. I told you, Gamma is a gem. It's a game saver. The only thing I would do is change this last slide right here because it looks like the font's a little too big. That's why things are kind of getting cut off. But yeah, just everything else was
Okay, good.
perfectly put together and well done. So I appreciate it. That's exactly what we want. Yeah, so Gamma is a really great tool. It's an AI tool that can literally, from a prompt, build out an entire presentation or deck or you know, 3-page, 4 or 5-pager, whatever you're looking to accomplish, and it does it for you like literally in seconds. It's pretty amazing. So that's why I recommend that you guys check it out. But I appreciate you for running through that. And I believe who's on the calendar for next Tuesday?
Me, I am.
Okay. And Jay, did you is this a paid version of Gamma or is this a free version?
No, this was free.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry, I'm stuffing my face.
you're good. You're good. So
Yeah,
so you use the
my
free
third
version of
job today.
Gamma and
I was able to use a free version. They do give you
some credits.
like a certain amount of credits,
Okay.
points, whatever they call it, but it's more than enough to do a presentation.
Okay. So Dynasty, what you're gonna do, and your framework is it NIST or is it
It's NIST.
okay?
I thought it was NIST. I didn't know. So
Huh?
NIST. I didn't know how it was pronounced, like if it was spelled out or
Yeah, NIST or NIST, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're used interchangeably. But what you can do is you can create an account on Gamma
Mhm.
and do the same thing. Like I'm not sure what you've put together already. I'm sure you've done some work on it already, but use all the resources at your disposal, right? You have ChatGPT, you have whatever. But what you're going to use Gamma for is to build out this pretty deck for you, right? And so that you can you know, just have a beautifully well done presentation on that particular topic. So I recommend and encourage you to use it. Um, okay. Great job. Great job, Jay. That was awesome. Okay. So
Thank you much.
go ahead and
I'm
do.
also putting it in the chat too, y'all. So if anybody
Yep.
want to
Yeah, I need that.
Yep. That's awesome.
double check.
So what I wanted to go over now is see if I can share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen right now?
Yes.
And it shows, does it show Q radar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I wanted to go ahead and it kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, is I want you guys to have right talking points. I want you guys to be able to filter on different alerts that you've worked. So when you come into CrowdStrike, for example, we have a lot of detections in here. If I could filter on, let's just say close, and CrowdStrike has I think their retention time is, I want to say a month. It may be different. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm just filtering on closed tickets here. These are closed detections, excuse me. And let's see if I click on one of these, I can't remember. Let's see. I want to click on one of these real quick. This is what I was talking about here. Let me see, is it this one? Okay, so I'm just gonna pick one of these. So as you can see, I'll open this guy up right here. And this one was closed by, doesn't say, but if I open up this detection, this is the alert, right? So mshta.exe on this host by this admin. All right, it's saying that this attempted to launch a likely malicious payload from a remote path. Okay, review the command line. All right, and so what we would do, and what I'm telling you guys to do, is to go back into the tools, go back into the investigations that you worked, look at your tickets, and get familiar with what you did. And all I can do is I can scroll down here and I can get everything. This one was worked by, so someone just put VSOC, so I'm not sure who this was, but here's the summary disposition, right? On July, all right, Cythority VSOC investigation generated by CrowdStrike to losses payload. So essentially, so this alert triggered due to uh the launch of a potentially malicious payload, okay, from a remote path on the following host, and where the user was an admin, right? So now we're talking about a malicious file or malicious payload that was launched from a remote path from on this host by a user who is an admin. That's a problem because a user who's an admin has elevated privileges, right? And that can fall within the tactic of privilege escalation, right? Because if you have administrative level privileges, you don't just have regular standard privileges, you have escalated privileges. So you can do more essentially. So you can have a greater impact if compromised. So if there's a user account compromised on an admin account, that's a whole bigger issue, right? And we'll talk about that in just a second. But review of the CrowdStrike process tree and telemetry, this is great, indicated that PowerShell was launched by Explorer. The process spawned in a child process of MSHTA, which is a legitimate executable used to run HTML application files. The executable was blocked by CrowdStrike because of this command, and W script indicates that there is some type of scripting within the Windows host. The attacker or tester tried to remotely execute JavaScript with a legitimate executable based on the actions taken by CS and allows to perform. No action is needed. So, a couple things to point out here. And I was taking some notes earlier when I was doing some study preparing for this interview. And I think it's important, right? So, when we talk about like alerts that we've worked, and we talk about like the steps that we would take, it's important to really understand what steps. So for example, I wrote an alert down where I talk about multiple failed logins followed by a successful login. Well, where do we see those type of alerts? Well, if I go to QRadar and I open up our offenses, you can see right here, right? If I open up multiple login failures for the same user preceded by multiple Login failures from the same source, account failed to log on. This is just basically an alert that is saying there was multiple login failures followed by multiple login failures followed by a login failure, right? So when we're looking at these, like for example, if I click on this alert right now, and then I go to the 128 events in here, I can filter on just, I don't want to see the failed logins. Failed login is a failed login. I want us to see a successful login after a bunch of failed logins, right? That would look more suspicious. Think of it as you logging into your phone. If Dynasty, if someone was trying to log into your phone and put the wrong passcode in 10 times and then put the right password in on the 11th time, that would be kind of suspicious, right? Because you, if it's your phone, you probably would log in on the right time, probably the first time, or maybe the second if you were rushing, right? But if someone was trying to then brute force it 10 times and on 11th time got in, that's suspicious. So what we would do here in this instance, when we're filtering on these alerts, is I can literally just right click here and I can say quick filter on filter on event name is not failure audit. I don't want to see the failure. I want to see if it's not a failure. And so we'll filter. Well, it's not multiple login failures, so we don't want to see those either. Boom. And it should say no results were found. It should. Still loading, but we should be left with no results found. Or we may have to filter down again, right? See, 35%. So multiple login failures. So the point I'm trying to make is I can filter out and be able to determine, okay, this is benign because there's no successful logins after a multiple failed login attempt. And you can see here we're 67%, and we only have one event. So, which is for a multiple login failure for the same user. So what this is, just from looking at it, this is right here. This IP address is scanning, which based out of Germany. You can see that here. And we can run this in OSINT and get some more, feedback. But now you can see it's completed and boom, we have no events, no successful logins, right? So the point I'm trying to make is I took an alert or an investigation or an incident, and I wrote down what would be the steps I would take if I was in so if they say, hey, give me an example of an alert or an incident that you've worked. So I can speak to that and I can say, okay, one example of an alert or investigation I worked start to finish was for a multiple failure login followed by a successful login from an unusual IP address. I just gave you guys a real example of that right here on the screen. It's slightly different because it's multiple failed logins from an unusual IP address. There's no follow-up successful one. But there's the example of how it kind of is correlated. On paper right now, I have multiple failed login followed by a successful login from an unusual IP. And so what would be the first step in investigating this, right? The first step, and these are from my notes, is we would want to validate the authentication in our SIM. So we would want to look to see if there were any, and this again, you can do this in other tools, right? You can do this in Splunk, you can do this in QRadar, you can do this in any tool. Is we would want to see if there was any successful logins. So Windows event code 4624, which I'm not expecting you guys to remember because I don't even remember those event codes, right? But there is an event code that Windows has for successful logins, failed logins, special privileges assigned, explicit credentials, and then user account created. So like, for example, when there's a successful login on a system, that has an assigned Windows event code 4624. When there's a failed login, it's 4625. So what we're looking at right here are Windows event log 4625 because this is a failed login. This is not a successful login. It's a failed login attempt. Okay? So that's the first step, right? So I'm just walking through my talking points, right? Then the next thing I would want to do is run a query on sign-in logs and specify the Windows event logs that I want to see, but all which we just talked about, right? Successful login, failed login. So we would specify based on running the query on a sign-in log or event log, and then we would want to take note of other key fields. What other key fields would we want to take note of and care about if we were investigating this incident? I just showed you guys one. I told you guys one of them is going to be the IP address, right? We want to see the source IP address, which will give us an assigned geolocation. Where is this IP address coming from? Well, the registered geolocation's in Germany. So we want to run that query, want to take note of the geolocation, want to take note of the IP address, the host that it's attempting to sign in on, and if there's multi-factor authentication, right, enabled, because that'll tell us if there is or if there isn't, then that's a whole nother conversation, right? We also want to look at what? We want to look at different telemetry. What is that? What is telemetry? Well, we just talked about it in this disposition. It says CrowdStrike review the CrowdStrike process tree and telemetry indicated. Let's talk about what telemetry is because that's extremely important. So just now pivoting into a totally different tool for a totally different alert, we're going to talk about telemetry. So for example, if we're looking at this alert right here, right? And so this is for this malicious payload. All right. If I click here on process table or process tree, it's just a different way to view it. The telemetry is right here on the left-hand side. So for example, I can look at the command line, what command was run. I can look at the file path. This is all telemetry. I can look at the triggering indicator, which we can see here. The triggering indicator is triggering on the SHA hash value, okay? And that is for this right here. This is the hash value associated with it. But the additional telemetry is right here, guys. It's disk operations, it's process operations, it's registry operations, it's network connections, okay? And it's also DNS requests. So you can see a lot of that stuff right here. So for example, if you hover over here, you see process operations, right? Look, process operations. You see registry operations. You see DNS request. Where is it calling out to? What websites or domains is this calling out? This is all telemetry. You have disk operations. You have network operations and connections. So pivoting back to my notes, we also want to look for that telemetry, which includes process executions. So this is process executions right now. From looking at it in CrowdStrike, you can see the winit executable spawned services, which spawns SVC hosts, which spawned Explorer, which spawned PowerShell. So this would be like the child process right here that you can see here, this PowerShell, which was spawned by its parent process, Explorer, which was spawned by its which is its parent process, SVC host. So the PowerShell SVC host is not the parent process, is the grandparent process. Yes, that's a real thing, and that's how they refer to it, right? When you're looking at a process tree, it's easy to remember because it's like we have a parent and our parents have a parent. That's our grandparent, right? And so looking at the telemetry is important. So you're not just looking at the actual alert. You're looking at the alert. You're looking at, let's say, the event log to determine whether or not it was a successful sign-in or a failed sign-in, right? After you do that, then you're looking at other key fields, right? Maybe running a query looking for specific sign-in logs or event logs, looking at IP, source destination, geolocation, host name, username, all right? Any other relevant information. Then you also want to look at additional telemetry, pivoting into an EDR and looking at any process executions, network connections, DNS requests, scheduled tasks, anything that would indicate that there's some suspicious activity happening. And then lastly, when we talk about remediations, recommendations, if there was, let's say, a successful login, which we want to find instances where there are, we want true positives that we can talk about. But in the event that there was a successful login, or let's say a confirmed malicious activity, then we have to talk about remediations. And so we can talk about what steps we would take. Like, for example, we may want to contain that user account. If it's compromised, we might want to contain that user account, right? We might want to force a password reset of that user account. We may want to re-enroll an MFA, not once, but twice, right? To make sure that we cut off any attacker access. We also want to maybe evaluate host behavior. Okay, so if there's, let's say, a compromise or suspicious activity where there was a user account compromise or some sort of compromise, we might want to evaluate the host activity to see if there's any, suspicious activity happening on that host post compromise, right? And so we can look at that at the EDR. We can look at the executions. We can look at any persistence attempts. We can look at any lateral movement, and then we can isolate that machine to prevent further spread or propagation, right? And then lastly, one of the things I have on here is to revoke any active sessions and tokens to ensure that there's no use of cached credentials. You guys ever notice when you're logged into something and then, maybe step away and then you come back like a day later or however long later, and you can you don't even have to log in, like your credentials are just cached, so you literally can kind of like log right back, essentially not log back in, but like you're automatically like can log into whatever tool or access that you had before without having to physically log in again, right? That's because of your cache credentials. So to revoke that, to eradicate that, you can revoke access sessions and tokens so that it's forcing you to log in again, right? So those credentials are not cached. That's another recommendation that we can take to prevent, right, further spread and compromise. And lastly, document everything in your case record. Now, the question may come up where it's like, okay, and these are sometimes curveballs that are there to trick you, but like the question may come up and like, okay, but what if this account that was compromised was a domain admin account? Like, what if it was an admin account, not just a regular user account, but an admin account? What does that mean? Meaning an account with elevated privileges. Well, let's just say that the process pretty much is still the same, right? If it's an admin account, it just means it's more serious because they have further capability and access, right? So they have more access. So for example, if it's a domain admin, we're still going to follow the same steps. We're still going to disable the admin account. We're still going to remove and revoke the Kerberos tickets and access tokens and VPN sessions. Now, it goes into a little bit more depth, right? I didn't say VPN sessions before, but the reason why this is relevant is because if it's an admin account, right, we don't want that admin account to be compromised and then start performing malicious activity that could potentially grant new, let's say, user accounts. Because if you're an admin, you can probably create user accounts, delete user accounts, and start to do more things than a general user can. So we got to be a little bit more, heightened in terms of like what steps we follow. So we're still going to disable the account, remove and revoke the Kerberos tickets, access tokens, and VPN sessions, right? Reason why the VPN sessions is important is because we wouldn't want that user account to have the ability to dial into the VPN. So if we revoke those VPN sessions, they can't connect to the network remotely, right? That's important. Next thing we're going to do is isolate those systems. So any systems that were recently interacting with that admin account, we want to isolate, including any domain controllers, servers, or jump boxes. So, for example, if we are talking about an admin account that is interacting with a domain controller or a server, which a domain controller is like the keys to the kingdom. That's your main, center console. All right. And any jump boxes, meaning when you log into a jump box, a lot of time is you're RDPing in. You're connecting to a server essentially to connect to another server, right? It's a jump box, like a stepping stone, right? It's just another layer of authentication. All right. So that's another thing we would want to do. We'd also want to check for persistence. What is persistence? Persistence is an adversary attempting to maintain access, right? So, for example, there's something called Kerberos golden ticket creation, right? And so Kerberos golden ticket creation allows for tickets to be granted, and this is very high level stuff, so I don't want to go into too much depth. I'm trying to make it easily to digest, but essentially, when we check for persistence, we want to check for golden ticket creation, all right, which is the creation of new admin accounts or scheduled tasks or group policy modifications. So, if you see that there was an admin account that was compromised, and then all of a sudden, Dynasty, you see new scheduled tasks starting to be spun up, that would be a little bit suspicious, right? Why all of a sudden there's new scheduled tasks all of a sudden set up, right? Wouldn't that be kind of weird?
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't it be weird if some new admin accounts were all of a sudden created? Wouldn't it be weird if there were some group policy modifications made? So these are things that we want to check for persistence, because if that admin account is identified and let's say disabled because we caught the attacker, but now he created a bunch of new admin accounts, well, that's persistence. He's trying to maintain his access. So first thing someone's going to do is try to establish persistence, because once you have one user account and you create a couple others, even if you disable the first one, that doesn't mean that the other ones have been discovered yet. So that's another thing we want to do. And then we want to also escalate and engage backups, restore. So we might want to, potentially engage like a backup or restoration. We want to obviously rotate the credentials on privilege access across the environment. So there should be a policy in place for admin accounts to rotate their credentials every 30 days or however, whatever's in the policy. And then lastly, begin a forensic review of the domain controller logs and SIM data for data exfiltration. So once an account is compromised, then the other thing you have to worry about is what's called data exfiltration. And data exfiltration is once somebody has keys to the castle and they're in the system, right? They're already there's a user account compromise. Now we have to worry about exfiltration of data. Okay, which means someone's sending data offshore. All right, and that could be extremely dangerous. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That was a lot. I'm gonna give you guys a quick minute to digest that. I'll be right back in just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to take notes.
Yeah, me too. He was going. Yeah. He know a lot though, so I'm just trying to soak it all up.
Yeah. Gotta capture what you can. Expectations.
Well, we can play back the video too, like later, can't we? Or if you don't catch everything, right?
Oh, I think so. I'm not sure. Work on this.
All right, we're back. Questions? I know I was kind of running through that. Are there any questions? Y'all good?
I don't know if I'm good, but I'm definitely gonna have to go back on that recording.
Yeah, I might need that recording.
Well, you gotta have questions then. All right. I mean,
I mean,
so
I'm gonna be honest. Like for me, it's more of like you don't know what you don't know. Like
right.
I just need to really go back and relook at it again, and then I feel like I'll have enough concrete information to be able to actually formulate a question.
Correct. Fair
So,
enough.
and that's I'm just speaking for me.
I would say the same for myself. Go back and review it, and a lot of acronyms I was trying to catch, different things, but review it. Yeah.
So really what I wanted you guys all to take from this is that when it comes to interviewing, because that's been a topic that's come up, right? The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about like we've been doing the work, but like let's actually prep, right? Let's do some interview prep. And now it's relevant on my mind now because I'm actively interviewing. So it's like, okay, how can I help you guys prepare? And it's like the first thing is you guys need to have real investigation that you guys can speak to. And even if you don't, like ChatGPT, hey, we just talked about the OWASP top 10 framework. Well, what's stopping us from like ChatGPT and give me the top 5 most common, cybersecurity alerts or investigations that analysts working in a SOC have to handle, on a daily basis. Phishing is going to be one of them for sure, right? So you don't even have to necessarily have worked them, but you at least have to be aware of the steps. And so I just wanted to give you guys a real example of an alert, an investigation that I've not only worked in our own environment at Cythority, but also other environments, other client environments. And so it kind of leads me to the next point, another question that can come up in an interview because we're talking about it. And that is, tell me about a time you had to push back on a proposed security decision. Now, maybe none of you have ever been in that situation before. So, but the worst thing you could do is be like, uh, I don't think I've ever had to look, Dynasty, look, I don't think I've ever had to do that before. Like,
I would ask, can you elaborate a little bit more?
well, what they're looking for is they're saying they want to know if you've been working in security for a substantial amount of time, 3 to 5 years, right? Which is what they're looking for. They want to know, can you tell me about a time when you were working in on a team or for a company where like you had to push back on like something that like a management, because a lot of times management isn't always really technical, right? So maybe there's some like someone at a higher up in a management position saying, "Hey, we need to do this," right? And you as an analyst have a role and responsibility to be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a minute! Like if we do that, then we're susceptible to this." So they want to see that they're asking this question. They just want to see if you've ever been in a position where you had to push back against management's, let's say, proposed decision. And
Well,
that
yeah, if
shows
you've been in the
two.
field 35 years, you should be able to answer that. I assume you should be able to answer that question, right?
I've been in the field 10 years and it's harder than you think
Oh,
because
okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's harder than you think because if you don't if you're not if it's not, you know, if you're not cognitive of like what they're like how to speak to this question, like I couldn't off the top of my head be like, yeah, there was that one time, December 23rd, 2014, I actually said, you know what, I didn't think that was a good idea. Of course not. I can't remember that far back. I don't remember that instance. It's not, I mean, my memory is not the best when it comes to stuff like that. Like because I've worked night shift, you know, sleep deprived, having a toddler, just the amount of alerts and volume that I receive is just like so much that like I'm like, you know what? Yeah, on this. So the point I'm trying to make is you got to actually revisit this and prepare for the question. So what I put together a little scenario for you guys, And so it's tell me about a time. And again, if you haven't been in this position, then again, be familiar with it. Have a story, right? Be able to speak to it, right? And this is a real example. So you guys can see my screen in QRadar, right? I'm going to use the same example. You guys can see my screen in QRadar?
Mhm.
So looking at this alert right now, right? Multiple failed login. And this is the case at other customers that I've worked. This alert fires nonstop because how many times do you think people fail, put the wrong password in and trigger a failed login, right? It happens a lot. But what happens even more is there's IPs on the internet. You can see them right here, these offense sources. There's IPs on the internet that are just literally spun up every single minute to scan your network. Their job is to scan and try to figure out if they can log in. It could be a brute force attack. It could be a denial of service attack. It could just be a scanning attempt, right? So what is happening here is you're going to see a lot of these, right? You can't stop these from happening. Because if you try to block one of these IPs, like if there's let's say, a successful connection, then if it wasn't blocked, then we would want to say, and just let's block it. But even if you block these individually, it's never going to stop them. There's never going to not be any IP scanning your network. If something is on the internet, they're going to just try to scan it regardless, and you're never going to be able to stop it. It's just plain never going to happen, right? Because there's just new bots and new IPs that are going to be used to do this. So this is what we call a really noisy alert. It's very noisy. It's a lot of times false positive, but again, here's the scenario. Tell me about a time where you had to push back on a proposed security decision. So let's say it's management and I'm saying, listen, I want you guys to turn this alert off. I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want you guys spending 10 to 15 hours working these alerts anymore when 99.9% of the time it's a false positive, right? That's the proposed security decision. Jay, Dynasty, Jalen, John, turn this alert off. You're spending too much time on it. So that's the question. Tell me about a time where you had to push back as an analyst on a proposed security decision, which was, hey, turn this off. We don't need this anymore. So what is the STAR method? How can you apply it in this situation? Situation is the S in the STAR. So the situation is that leadership, me, wanted you, Dynasty, to suppress the SIM correlation rule because they were generating a high amount and volume of alerts, and I felt like it's slowing down operations for our team. That's the situation. The task is you had to ensure that we maintained effective security monitoring without our analysts being overwhelmed and advise leadership of the risk trade-off, right? So we want to continue to provide effective security monitoring and make sure that we understand the trade-off if we were to go ahead and turn this rule off. So the action is that you, the analyst, gather data on all of the rules, on the false positive rates, the true positive cases, and the types of attacks that they were designed to detect. Then providing alternatives like potentially tuning the thresholds and suppression logic, automating the enrichment through SOAR rather than disabling them. So what are we saying? We're saying that management says, here's a proposed security decision, turn this off. And you as the analyst are now saying, wait a minute, hold on here. We have to take a look at things, analyze the trade-off here between turning it off versus keeping it on. So instead of just turning it off, you're essentially politely communicating and effectively politely pushing back and communicating, hey, look, we should potentially consider not turning this off, but slightly tuning it, improving it, adjusting the threshold so that maybe they trigger less, but maintain a level of visibility that we're all comfortable with, right? And so what's the result? S, situation, task, action, result. The result is leadership agreed to keep them active. However, we tuned them by 50% and automated enrichment, which saved us 10 to 15 hours a week in work. Does everyone understand that?
Yeah.
Because look at my screen right now. See that? See that? See that? See that?
It's flooded.
Right? Look at all these. I don't know why he keeps doing that, but right? You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of them. Right? So this is a very noisy alert. So you'll hear a lot of time false positive, false positive. Let's go to the next page. Look at that. Look at all these. So the point I'm trying to make is when you are focused so much on the forest, look at these alerts right now. All right. Look at this page. I want you to think of a forest. Imagine you standing out on a football field and looking out into the forest. Like at the edge of your vision, you see is just trees, right? If you see all those trees, which are like multiple login, multiple login, multiple login, multiple, that's trees. If you look at the forest and you're looking at the forest, do you think you'll be able to see that one tree that you're looking for in the forest, which is a true positive? How are you gonna see the one true positive when it's disguised in 99 other false positives?
Yeah, not in all of
You're
that.
not. You're not gonna see it.
You're not gonna see it, which is why it's so important, and that's why a lot of SOCs, they're not efficient. So a lot of SOCs that I've worked in is there's such a huge amount of false positives because if you're working for a client, the client doesn't want to tune them. They don't have the engineering capacity to do it. They don't want to pay you to do it. So they're like, ah, fuck it, just keep it. Right? So what are we doing? Well, we're chasing our tails, spinning our wheels because, we can't get the client to tune it. Or for whatever reason, like it could be other reasons too. But the point I'm trying to say is SOCs all struggle with noise and false positives. That's why it's so important as an analyst to be able to identify areas of improvement. To be able to be like, hey guys, look, we're spending a lot of time on these alerts and they don't really amount to anything suspicious. We can't necessarily stop them, but what can we do is potentially increase the threshold, improve the alert with enrichment, and then be able to maybe, cut out 10 hours of our work each week by just making sure that these, instead of having 1,000 of these trigger a week, we only get like 200. Now your management's happy because now you can prioritize other tasks and now you're improving operations because now you're looking at more qualifying alerts. Now instead of spending time looking at these false positive nothing burgers, now you're spending time working, phishing alerts that are, 50% of the time going to be a true positive because a user clicked and entered their credentials or downloaded something. But that's your job as an analyst to be able to be aware of these things, right? Told you guys, we're not just doing surface level. We're going full in incident response management. So you guys to be able to provide these recommendations, not just for blocking, but also areas of improvement in SOC efficiency is really going to make you and stand out from other analysts. So just from being able to answer that one interview question, tell me about a time where you had to push back on a proposed security decision. I want everyone to remember this scenario where we talked about the proposed security decision is I said, Jay, turn this rule off. And you said, whoa, wait a minute, Will, respectfully, we got to think about this because I understand the situation is, hey, look, we want to suppress these alerts and turn them off, but I think we need to really look at how we're effectively monitoring. We want to make sure that our analysts aren't overwhelmed, yes, but we also want to understand the risk trade-off, right? So let me just gather some more intel. Let me look at the false positive rates. Let me look at the true positive rates. Let me gather those metrics. Let me see what type of attacks these alerts are actually designed to detect. And then let me provide some alternatives. Like, hey, instead of turning them off, let's just tune them. Let's increase the threshold so that we tune them down a bit and suppress them a bit. This way, we still maintain visibility. All right, you know what, Jay? That makes sense. All right, cool. Let's try that. And then boom, we've automatically now tuned them out 50% of the noise. So now instead of working 1,000 of these a week, we're working 500 and saved us 10 hours of work a week, improving operations by 50%. Do you understand how that just became a resume bullet point? This one question just turned into a bullet point on everyone's resume. That's what companies want to see. Because when they ask you this question, if you can't answer it, you're in trouble. That's a resume bullet point. Improved security decision making and hardening recommendations to senior stakeholders and management. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Jay? Well, for example, my manager had proposed we turn off some alerts in our environment. And so, that was pretty much what the situation. And so I had to educate management on the fact that we need to maintain effective monitoring without having our analysts be overwhelmed, but also understand the risk trade-offs if we turn this alert off, immediately. And so instead of doing that, I suggested that we gather some more intel and metrics around the false positive rates, true positives, understanding exactly what these alerts are built and designed to detect, and then adjust those tuning thresholds, automate the enrichment rather than just straight on disabling them. And so result was we ended up cutting and tuning the alert by 50% and saving 10 to 15 hours of work, improving operations by 50%, since we no longer had to, respond to the same 1,000 alerts. We only had to respond to 500 in a week. So we basically improved operations by 50%. So you can literally turn this into a whole, resume bullet point that's quantitative, qualitative, that highlights your accomplishment, success, and your impact, just from this one example scenario. Questions? Comments? All right. Where are we at for time? 8:30? Okay. Okay. So, go ahead and share my screen here real quick. So, Dynasty, you have your resume, okay? The videos, all right? Those are important. I need to know by the end of the week on Friday where you stand with those.
Okay.
John, your same thing, your resume and the videos. I showed you how to get to them. In the turnover report, I have created a section for you. If you go to the bottom of the turnover report, I've created a section where you can hyperlink your resume. Okay, I'll show you where I want you to, and where you're gonna get the template is in the How to Land Your Dream Job course. I did mention this already to you, but I just want to make sure that you know what the expectation is there. So
that's a good course, by the way, for anybody who ain't watched it yet. That How to Land Your Dream Job course. My whole LinkedIn strategy was pretty much based around the information he was dropping in it. So
yeah, it's a real good course. So you'll come in here, right? It's right here in your How to Land Your Dream Job course. All right, you got this draft. I say literally file, download, make a copy. So click on the top left corner, file, download, and you're gonna make a copy. Okay, I have to edit that. I don't know why it doesn't say that. And there's the copy. So you just hit file, and then you do make a copy. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to make no changes to what's in there already. We just add in whatever.
Right. So if you look here, you're obviously gonna put your name. You're obviously gonna put your information there. You're gonna put now you're not gonna touch this. So you're gonna put your name and your PII. Then the Cythority experience that you all are in right now.
Okay.
All that's been done for you. See that? I already created the bullet points for you on what it's supposed to look like. So you don't even have to touch this. See? So it's Cythority, you're a security analyst in your remote. All right. I put the start date when we started the program. I told everybody that they should have this start date. Okay. And I'd even be willing to adjust that time because the program is actually a lot older than this. So
Okay.
we could essentially, I could adjust that time, give y'all more experience. But here's the bullet points I've created for you. This is what a finished experience section looks like. This is polished and ready to go. Now you see here right underneath company security analyst. This is just a placeholder. Placeholder.
Okay.
So what's expected of you guys is to come in here and let's say you worked for, you know, I don't know, whatever.
So
Can
pretty much that's what we add in our work experience at right there.
Exactly. Your role, like the company name, the role, all that information, you're going to put all that here. And you're going to
Okay.
this is just placeholder text. So it's just to show you what you need to change. Same thing here, company too. So you're going to just put whatever information, transferable skills and experience you have here. But I already just now did this for you, right? So all that's done. All you got to do is plug and play. Company name, role, bullet points. Once you're done with that, education, certification, anything else you change. Everything else, like you're just going to edit the context, right? Once you're done, you're going to copy this, right? You're also going to make sure that when you share it to me, that you enable editing permissions. So anyone with the link can edit. I have to be an editor, okay? So you have to list me as an editor. Like you can see here, it says anyone with the link, but if you give this anyone with the link can view, I will only be able to view it. I want to be able to make changes to it. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what did I just see? I see that. Lexus, try it to review. So, decline. So, you guys are not making changes to this document. Okay. You guys are not making changes to this document. You are making a copy of this document.
Okay,
And you're making changes to that document. Once you make changes to that document, you're going to copy and paste that link right here. See, John Vick, it has someone else's resume there for the time being, but what you're going to do, edit the link, and you're going to copy and paste your link right here. And then hit apply. And then it's going to take me to your specific link, your specific document. Make sense?
got you.
All right. So Dynasty, John, you guys got to do that. You also have to complete those videos. While you're in that How to Land Your Dream Job course, it's also going to walk you through your LinkedIn. Okay, I know Dynasty, you've already done that. John, I need to make sure that you've done that. But your LinkedIn is going to be optimized. So we're going to teach you how to go through your LinkedIn, dot your I's, cross your T's. And then you're going to be starting your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn strategy, right? Your job search strategy, right? Connecting with recruiters, hiring managers, right? But we want to make sure that your documents and everything are in order and in alignment. So that's stuff I need you guys to be doing ASAP. Like John, I should have that by Friday. I should
Yeah, it'll be done by Friday.
Okay, cool. Same with you, Dynasty, if you guys have any questions. You have Gamma.app. Gamma, that's the tool you're gonna be using for your for the deck, for the framework you're gonna be walking us through. And yeah. So those are the things I wanted to highlight. All right, guys. I wanted to highlight the content. Please just keep an eye out. This month is going to be a little wacky just because it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We have an accelerator program launching. We have a webinar series. So we're going to be doing master classes on Mondays, every Monday of the month. You guys are more than welcome to tune in, right? It's going to be more just like cybersecurity awareness, hygiene, and obviously like marketing the program. So like just FYI. So Mondays are going to be kind of from like 6 p.m. to like 7:30. It's going to be after 7:30, you guys are be good to go. So I'm pretty sure that you guys would just be jumping on just slightly delayed. But we also during the week, I'm not 100% sure, but it might most likely is going to be like a Wednesday. Wednesdays are probably going to be absorbed for the accelerator. So you guys will have an option to just work on your content or your strategies. Like it's not going to be expected for you guys to really do much. Which is necessary. You guys need to carve out that time anyway. So I should be seeing videos on YouTube channel. I should be seeing videos and content in LinkedIn. I should be seeing you guys doing all the, all the necessary required deliverables needed to start getting attraction and building the inbound, leads. All right.
Yes, sir.
That's important. That's really, really important. Like I would love to see a video, Jay, of you talking about this OWASP framework and, talking
Yeah,
about the
so
deck and all that. I did see the report you put up. I did see that.
right. I wanted to do the video though, but I gotta download the pro. Like my PC is, it's not trash. It's just it's not heavy. Like it only got 8 gigs of RAM on there, and it's already like moving slow. I'm about to do a cleanup on it. But the program that you gave me, I'm probably just gonna end up using my phone, but I want to do it the way that you be doing yours, but you see it in the background. Like you can see the screen in the background and
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Because that's
Gotcha.
the format that I want to do. I just didn't want to like do one on the phone of me talking.
What
Um,
about Loom? What about
but
Loom?
that's what I'm talking about. The Loom platform, because you gave me that platform, and that's the one that
Yeah.
I looked up. So I got it on the PC, but it's something going on with the camera on it. So that's why instead of doing that, because when I do my LinkedIn videos, I don't be doing them videos like on the day of. I do scheduled posts. So like when the weekend come up, my post is already scheduled for like Monday and Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't start posting to like Wednesday. Like Wednesday come around, I'll like schedule something for Thursday and Friday type deal. So that way I'm not like stuck on like, oh man, what I'm gonna do today and trying to, really be thinking on the spot.
That's good. That's
So
good.
yeah, I'm definitely on that though to do a video because I really want to start doing the videos because I feel like that's really where you get the most feedback from is the videos.
Yeah, you will.
And I got a book too, man. I ain't even got it. It's an audio book. The TED Talk, the Talk Like TED, the non-public speaking secrets. I'm gonna tap in on that because if I'm gonna be doing videos, I feel like really tapping in on public speaking is gonna help. But also having no skill set or having fine tuning that skill set will also just be like have us extra sharp on interviews. So yeah. Definitely gonna tap in on that. And Christmas is coming up. You might could just like throw us that sock class you got in there. You know what I mean? Like let
Which
us
one?
do that.
Which one you talking about?
Classroom, that would be a great Christmas gift.
Which class? Which we talking about?
The what's it called? The SOC operations course in the classroom. You should
Oh,
that could be like a great Christmas gift for
I
the
gotta look and see what's because I gotta look and see if it's even
experience.
I
Hold
got you. I
on,
gotta look
Sam.
and see.
Don't go nowhere. I'm almost done.
Let me
um,
see. Introduction to security operations? No, you're not talking about that.
yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Oh no. Okay. So that one is so that intro to security operations course in there is the actual like what y'all are doing in the drive, like those courses you've already completed.
Oh,
Okay, so like I gotta just migrate them. So there's a lot of stuff like that I gotta migrate in here.
right.
Um, but what I will be offering and giving to you guys is a um so I know if you guys remember I talked to you guys about Justin getting a job recently at CoreWeave, right?
Right.
And so the reason why that's relevant and I wanted to share with you guys is because how can I get my Zoom back? Here we go. Does that change? There we go. Um, the reason why that's relevant, I want to share with you guys, is because we're creating a cyber literacy course. It's going to be free. It's just going to be a recording of the conversation between Justin, myself, and my financial advisor, Kenny Charles, who is a licensed financial advisor for Equitable. And he set up my entire life insurance policy for myself, my wife, both my kids, my sister, soon to be Justin. And he's gonna be basically recorded that whole entire session of like Justin because Justin got a new job now. He's making great money. And so being able to know what to do with that money, setting up a life insurance policy like a VUL. It's not like whole life or term life, nothing like that. It's like a actual life insurance policy that has living benefits. You'll hear the term like infinite banking or be your own bank, right? Vertical integration, like that's a real thing in real life that people like just don't know exists. But a variable universal life insurance policy is a vehicle that you can leverage while you're alive. It has cash value. So when you're putting money into it, it doesn't go away. It's money that's actually being invested in the stock market, whether it be the S&P 500, whether it be specific mutual funds that select. And so I wanted to get Justin set up because he's got a family, he's got a wife, 2 kids. I can see you trying to hold up a book, Justin,
I
but
don't think
you
they
in and
can't
out.
see it.
You're in and out a little bit. You got to turn the
Right.
background. But
It's the becoming your own banker book. Exactly what you're talking about. Great book.
exactly. So what I wanted to offer to everybody is like I've sent everybody to Kenny. I'm like, yo, anybody that I know, I'm like, yo, go speak to Kenny, get your policy set, get your VUL. So I've sent them a dozen people. I'm like, yo, why don't we just record this? Why don't we, I don't get any kickbacks or anything. It's just strictly out of the goodness of my heart to try to get people on the right path. And especially once you start making over 6 figures, or even if you work like at Walmart or at McDonald's, everybody should have a life insurance policy because it doesn't mean you got to put $500 a month. You can put 100 a month, right? Anybody can afford that and take care of their kids or take care of themselves while they're living. Like, so having that vehicle set up is like there's no minimum amount of money you got to make. So what we're going to do is we've recorded that session with Justin on setting up a VUL, what that looks like, how it works, so that you all can watch that for free. And if you have any questions, you guys have access directly to Kenny, who is a licensed financial advisor. You can reach out to him directly. He'll give you a free consultation with him to get you set up. There's no charge. It's done for you, right? The only charge would be is like when you set up the policy and like you actually like fund your policy, but like there's no charge for the course, there's no charge to speak to him. Like everything's done for you, literally. Like I can't say it's financial advice, but because he's a financial advisor, yeah, you know how some people they say it's for educational purposes or it's for informational purposes. Speak to your financial advisor, right? For financial advice. Well, he's a financial advisor, so you guys are in good hands.
Yeah, I'm in there.
So that's coming out, and the gentleman who was on the call earlier, he dropped. But the gentleman who was on the call earlier, Dauda, I met him today. He's actually a friend of Kenny's. He's the president of EYL University's investment group. So for all you who know about Earn Your Leisure and who pay attention to like investing, the gentleman who was on the call earlier spoke at InvestFest on stage, and he's the president of EYL University's investment chapter. So he's interested in cyber. His brothers are interested in cyber, so that's why he had popped in earlier just to check in and see what's going on. We had a good call today for about an hour, and so I don't know if you guys know, but a couple years ago I taught at Earn Your Leisure's University, a cybersecurity class. So yeah, man, all good stuff happening. Just keep following through with what's going on. But the content is so important. So Jay, in the meantime, while you're figuring out your computer and all that stuff, do a video on your phone talking about it. Like you can redistribute the content. You can create another video about it later on where you can show right. Just start getting the content out there. That's key. Doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is your enemy. Okay.
Progress over
I'm a perfectionist. Oh my gosh.
That's gonna be that's gonna be working against you, Dynasty.
No.
Ask Jalen. Ask Jalen.
I need like a content buddy or something where I can just like.
All right, Jalen and Dynasty. I'm pairing you guys up as content. You heard, Jalen?
Yeah.
You got mad love on your post, bro. I ain't seen a post since though. I saw a share. I saw a share of Jay's OWASP report. But
yeah,
I need some
on
content
that, by the way.
bro.
Look.
Your post got some love, man, in the sling and everything. Come on. So seriously, so y'all two, man. If I don't, I gotta see something. So you guys gotta be on it now. So Dynasty, you got message Jalen in Slack or however y'all want to communicate and come up with that content strategy. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be. All right.
All right.
And focus on what we talked about when interview coaching. Interview coaching and interview prep is constant. It's just constant practice. Nobody's good at it. Everyone gets nervous, including myself. And so you just got to continue to practice. You just got to practice and get your reps in. It's like shooting a free throw. Even the best hoopers, best players in history, right? You on the free throw line, and it's, you know what I'm saying, 6 seconds on the clock, tie game, or you're down 2 and you can't miss one. That's nervous. You get nervous, right?
If
But you
it,
still got.
speaking of, if anybody want to practice, hit me up on LinkedIn. We can schedule out a time. Like, yeah, because I
And
mean,
I
we
got
never talking
questions. If
about
you guys
the
need
class.
questions, I'm also giving you interview questions that are like for senior, like the role I'm applying for tomorrow is I have an XOR engineering role and I have a senior manager role for a SOC for cyber defense operations. Those are 2 roles that I'm actively interviewing for with a 200 and I'm just being transparent with you guys because, you know, I want you guys to know what it all is. Like, it's one of them is a 250 base salary for a senior manager role. So the
Oh, yeah.
questions that I'm going to be asking, or the questions that I'm asking, or that I'm asked, I'm going to make sure to relay with you guys, make sure to share them with you, like just from my own research and knowledge, from my own interactions that I've been doing. Like, these are some of the questions that are going to be asked. So that's why I tell you guys, if you guys can perform at that level, like, man, the rest of, like, Justin, you're overqualified. Like, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was. But
We're qualified.
250 though, I'm trying to, like, make sure I'm on the boat with you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
like,
it's I'm saying though, like
that's
we
that's
gotta
life
really,
changing money, man. That's life
right?
changing
yeah,
money.
It's life changing for sure. It's life changing for sure, but it's not easy, and it didn't take just, it's a lot of time, effort, and energy. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff we got to do, showing up, executing on the deliverables, right? Making sure, like, I'm even taking notes of like specific
yeah.
investigations that I've
Hey, I'm doing that now too, because I feel like even with the Black Rock, I wasn't fully prepared, but they hit me so fast with the interview. Like, the lady just called me like an hour later.
right.
Like, but when you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready. So they called me slipping there, but um
Yep.
it wasn't all just a disappointment either. She did say like that the lady was saying like I would be a better fit for a SOC role. Um,
Right.
and they do have some openings coming up for that too. So,
Exactly.
she did give me
That's
some feedback along the lines of that. So it sounded like she didn't fully quit on me. But also, I do believe that's also because I wrote her a recommendation on LinkedIn, the recruiter.
that
So
was
we
smart,
kind of
Jay.
like tight now, or whatever, right?
Okay, I
See what I'm
see.
saying? But that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
See what you just did? You just literally took it upon yourself to go out of your way to add value to someone else
Yeah.
right, with nothing in return. So you were like, "Oh, this recruiter it was a pleasure to work with, super informative, blah, 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 blah," right?" So now she's like, "Oh wow, that was heartfelt.
Yeah,
That
she
was
sent
nice,
me
man."
a personal like text message after I did it. Now this was like days before she gave me the feedback. See, I just got the feedback today. This was like 2 days ago, 3 days ago when I did the recommendation letter. She sent me like a message on the via text message thanking me, whatever, whoop de whoop. But even after this, it was just kind of like I feel like that recommendation letter was kind of what kept me in the loop with her too. Like, hey,
Right.
we got some SOC stuff coming up real soon. I'm gonna make sure I keep you in the
In
loop.
mind, right.
That's
Right.
called human engineering. That's You ever heard of the term social engineering in cyber? Like, hackers do social engineering, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
is a form of social engineering, human engineering. You just were proactive about that. So, because I bet you if you didn't do that, you probably wouldn't even have got the, hey, some roles are coming. She probably would have just ghosted you.
Right. Right.
'Cause that's how it be. The
Absolutely.
volume, like, she's speaking to a lot of people. Remember, her job isn't looking at logs. Her job is looking at LinkedIn profiles.
And when
So
I sent her the recommendation, I ain't mean to cut you off, TJ, but she only had like two. So I was
exactly.
like, oh yeah. So like this gonna count. You know what I
That
mean?
was so clutch. That's actually, I'm happy you shared that, because that's something I didn't even. I mean, I've told you guys get recommendations, but you giving one to a recruiter,
Yeah, that was good.
that's clutch right there. I didn't even think of that. That's clutch right there, because now she holds you in a little different light. Now she holds you
Right.
close to her heart, so she knows. Because mind you, they want you to get placed, but they're looking for the best fit at the time, right? So if you're not the right fit for this role, but there's another role that comes up, she might send that referral, get some money on the side, and get to place you, and she likes you, so she wants to follow up with you. That's how I was able to do the whole thing that happened with Amazon. Remember, I told you guys they said they wanted to fall back, but then they came back.
Mm-hmm.
right? I didn't even give that woman a recommendation. You know what I'm gonna go do right after this call?
Give
I'm
it a
gonna write her.
recommendation.
I'm gonna go write her a recommendation on LinkedIn.
Right,
That's a hack right there.
right.
But I got a question though. So it is a thing to be overqualified, I guess, for like
It is.
I guess what did
That's
you
not-
apply for? Like I guess generally
The
speak.
position was for a project coordinator.
Oh, okay.
I think she said the overqualified piece, that was just her way of being nice on the
Yeah,
turn down. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I don't
yeah.
feel like I was overqualified for it, but I feel like that was just her way of kind of just being nice on the turn down because she was like due to like me being more in the senior
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah.
But really it's because I have leadership on my resume. I think
Mhm.
that's where the overqualification came from. But
You know where it also comes from too, Jay. That was a project coordinator role, I believe.
right,
Um, don't lose sight of the fact that when you're a technical person, which on paper you come off across as technical
right,
because of what you're currently doing.
right,
So when you come across as a technical person and the role is not as technical as you come across, you're going to
Okay,
seem as overqualified for the
right.
role because of what you're doing.
right.
Does that make
Okay,
sense?
They do.
yeah.
And that
You
spill
can you can
TJ
ask
gave us
you can
too.
ask Justin. He's been not you, Jay, and the other Justin who got a job that we were just talking about. You can
Yeah.
ask him. He's been in that same exact boat. So
Okay.
Yeah,
just
and
saying.
that spill TJ gave us too on that first question, like what do you do to explain your day to day?
Mhm.
Like once you drop that on them, it's like it could easily cross over into well, they know what they're doing. Like it could easily cross over into an overqualified type
Yeah.
thing now because you sound you fit in the part. Like you not only your resume not only say you know what you're doing, but you sound like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you're able to go in and prove it when they go in and check different things like your LinkedIn, and then that leads into your YouTube and etc. So yeah, but I'm hoping she hit me back soon too. But the process works. I will say, like, if y'all just like watch the video, watch the video with the old boy with the LinkedIn, and he's
Mhm.
gonna tell you like he's gonna give you all the scripts. I just took down all the scripts. I don't like type nothing. I copy that and go and paste it, and I put their name in it right fast. And if you do that, what I learned too, because I only had 300 connections when I first started, and I got the 30 days free of LinkedIn. My LinkedIn premium would have ended tomorrow, but I'm getting it reinstated. But I have 500 now because I just followed his program of sending that out, filtering out. I was sending out to like 50 people a day, and my connections, I was getting like 30 connections a day
Mm.
type deal. So it's like, because when TJ first said, he was like, yeah, 500 is not hard to get to. I was like, man, I couldn't see it, so, but then as I started building momentum and getting it going, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is possible, right? So, now I'm over that 500 mark. So I'm a big deal on LinkedIn now.
Yeah.
I started with 39. I'm at 109 now, I think.
Right. See what I'm saying? So like, yeah, so like follow that program. You knocking them out 30, 40 a day. Um, yeah, so it's definitely doable.
I think LinkedIn limits it now. That's why like tell you guys to follow this to a T. If I'm not mistaken, LinkedIn limits the connections to 100 a week. To because
Mm.
what they wanted to prevent like a lot of like the spam
Right.
Right.
bot accounts from like
They do,
overwhelming.
because it every week it got to a point where it's like you gotta wait, and um so yeah.
So, but that's all good. That's what it's all about. Um. Okay. Cool. 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 Any other last minute go backs?
Oh, I had a question.
Okay.
So on my resume, well, the resume template, so It has a lot of like things I've never used before. So
Those
like,
are that's placeholder.
okay,
Some of that is placeholder, so don't get hung up on it. I just need you to like we'll go back to that. I just need you to actually
okay,
paste the other information like from transferable skills and previous roles and whatnot,
okay,
like your education, like all the other information. Like some of the technologies that are on there is placeholder, and some of it is relevant to you. Others is like if you have any that you have used, they can put there, but other
mhm,
stuff you'll like grow into, right? So just don't worry about it.
So
okay,
we could just leave it in place where it's, yeah, pretty much.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're just mainly filling out your core experiences, your personal information at the top, your like any certifications or education that you have, that sort of thing.
okay.
Okay.
And then I'll finalize that and then tweak it and tune it accordingly. Like you guys, like for example, the Cythority experience that you have on your am I sharing my screen right now?
No.
Okay. The experience that you have on your underneath Cythority, that experience is like experience that you guys have to like grow into, so to speak, right? Like you're still kind of growing into it, right?
Right.
With all the tools that we're using and roles, but that's why I'm like accelerating the growth of everybody by putting you guys in positions to understand concepts that's outside of like a typical entry level role. So like you guys are expected to like perform at a senior level because like that's why I have you guys doing like recommendations, not just triaging and then escalating it when it gets difficult, like actually doing the full investigation yourself and actually providing recommendations and actually giving examples of when you've pushed back against management respectfully and actually like having put in opportunities where you can create run books or create projects where you were spearheading OWASP or for example, like these are like I'm putting you guys in situations where like would step outside of like your role, and you also are being forced to understand how all these things are intertwined and work cross-functionally. Like most junior entry level and even like mid-level analysts, they're not concerned with metrics. They don't care or know about the mean time to respond or investigate or remediate. Those metrics are what a manager is going to be looking at. But I'm telling you guys to be aware of it because I want you guys to know and understand it from a perspective of a manager, because then you can become a better analyst. Because when you bring these things up in conversation, person you're sitting across and be like, oh, this person really knows their job because they're aware of the things I'm concerned with,
Mhm.
right?
Great.
So, and I'll give a real world example. I remember, and I think I shared this with you guys. I had a manager that was such a, no way to put it, a dick. And he tried to get me fired. He tried to get me fired and say like I basically didn't complete the tasks or the project in a reasonable amount of time. First things first, he never gave a deadline. I was alone on my shift, and the only thing that saved me, because by the time I started this job in 1 month, I was 1 month into the role, and 4 people got terminated. And 2 of them were on my direct team that were there longer than me for years. So imagine starting a job, you're a month in, and 4 people get fired on your team, 2 directly on your team, your shift. How does that make you feel? You start to walking on eggshells, right? And here I am standing up to this guy, like, hold on, no, that's not what happened, and sticking up for myself because I already knew how he was rolling. I knew that this guy would run my name and do the dirt if he can. But I knew one thing he didn't know I knew, and that was I knew the metrics. I knew that the reason why I didn't get this done is because one, there was no deadline delivered. Two, I was on shift by myself. Three, I worked 9 phishing incidents that day with an average response time of 45 minutes. Do the math on a 10-hour shift. Plus, I did a threat hunt discovering 1,000 IOCs and ran all of the proactive searches that I have to for every hour of our shift. That's why I didn't get it done. But I did get 2 wiki articles out of the 50 that you assigned to me, which requires a team of 5 to work on nonstop for a whole weekend without interruption. That's why I didn't get done. Eric? And according to your weekly and monthly metric report, the mean time to investigate is 45 minutes with a mean time to remediate of 56 minutes. According to my statistics and according to the alerts that I worked in our SOAR platform, I worked 9 phishing tickets at an average of 45 minutes. How much does that equivalent to? So yes, 8 hours of my 10-hour shift was consumed in phishing investigations. 2 hours was consumed of a threat hunt, resulting in 1,000 IOCs that were blocked proactively. And I ran every single search on shift, being alone, and I've only been here 8 weeks. Send to upper management. And I had an apology on Monday morning.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Basically, what I'm trying to say, Eric, is kiss my whole ass.
Hey, I do have a question of something that's kind of non-related though. First of
Can't
all,
post this one on LinkedIn. What was that?
So you know how we have the extra hour after like 9, we have like that extra hour. What's the
Yes.
possibility of us being able to get that on the front end instead of the back end? Because a lot of the times, like I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. So like getting it on the front end of being able to do it before class or before work would be more efficient. But even the, having
Oh shit! I'm sorry, I accidentally muted you. Even on the say what you were saying again. Sorry, Jay. I'm mute. I didn't mean to mute you.
no,
There you
I'm
go.
just saying even having it on the back end is still good. I'm not saying that, I don't appreciate it. I'm just like just fishing for possibilities to be able
Did you
to.
ever try logging in early like that?
No, because I wasn't sure if we even
Why don't
had
you try that?
early because right, I thought about doing that before I asked the question, but I was like, we only get you once a week.
Nah,
So
yeah, you can, bro. You can log in before. We run 24/7. I just don't tell everyone that.
okay, cool.
I don't want y'all lazy.
Right.
Stop showing up. But yeah, the answer is yes.
All right, cool.
So there's no excuses for the work not to get done. Everything is available, accessible at the fingertips. We have to work harder and smarter, and the rest is really just preparation. Notes, preparation. And it's also, like I said, guys, it's volume too. You're not gonna get, hey, I've been denied for roles too. This happens, this is my first interview in a while. So, it's just not like they're not easy. Interviewing is hard. It's not easy. So that's why you got to prepare. ChatGPT is going to be your best friend. I created a GPT and that's a fancy way of just creating a prompt. And then like, basically you're basically tailoring a dedicated ChatGPT window to act as a specific instance. So I created a GPT for my cyber threat daily briefing. So it knows when I say, give me my brief report, it's pulling from all these different sources that I specified at the beginning that I want to pull from, right? I also created a GPT specifically to serve as a hiring manager, recruiter, interview panel, career coach for these particular roles, right? And to train me and coach me and prepare me for the technical, behavioral, and scenario-based interview questions at Fortune 500 and Magnificent Seven companies. So I'm very specific with the language. And that allowed me to be able to do what? To be able to get these types of questions and then start to practice my responses and take notes. Even if you haven't worked an incident, ChatGPT, top 5 incidents, and be able to speak to incidents. You guys understand security. So be able to speak to the things. You don't have to walk them through. You remember, you're not going to have a computer like in front of you with the tool to show them. You're not going to have like a whiteboard. Like you're literally just speaking to them and you're giving them a high level overview on just things you would think about. Yeah, I would look for the IP, the host, source, destination. We want to look at telemetry, so we pivot to the EDR, look at process trees, network connections, DNS requests, so we can get an overview on the host and see if there's any malicious activity happening on the host after the login was successful, right? This is stuff you all have the ability to do. I'm doing it. Even if I don't have an example fresh in my brain or that I can find of an incident that I worked, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. Because that's all they want. They just want to be able to know that you can think under pressure and understand like things from a high level and be able to kind of walk through right on the spot. Who the hell knows event code 4624? I don't know that that's a failed login attempt. Who the hell remembers that? I don't know that 4624 is a success and 4625 is a failure. And the other, I don't remember event codes. But I know if I needed to look that up in time, oh, that's a failed login attempt. Okay. Like everyone knows 90% of the job is Googling and ChatGPTing at this point. All right. Content, content, content. Strategy, strategy, strategy. Content, 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 strategy, strategy, strategy. I got a text message today from someone that says "Hey, are you at your house now?" I sent the question mark back knowing that this is a scam. And then it says, "I'm Karen. Are you Anna? This is my work number." I said, "No, this is Philip Banks." And then it says, "Philip Banks. I'm sorry. I thought this was my friend's number. Hope I didn't bother you." And I didn't respond. It says, "It seems that my message offended you. Maybe you do not want to communicate with me anymore." No, Karen, I'd love to communicate with you. How are you? When do you want to come? Like, I got sometimes like they don't know who they're reaching out to. Anyway, be like, "No, Karen, I was actually hoping that you were going to ask me for me to send you some Bitcoin. I would love to buy lunch for you tomorrow." I can't. This is ridiculous. I can't. Anyway.
I've been getting a lot of emails too lately. Like since I started like diving into cybersecurity, it feels like I've been getting a lot of phishing emails and stuff like that too much.
60% of ransomware starts from a phishing email, which means that the greatest threat is in your email. Literally, the biggest threats are in your inbox. So tread lightly.
Right.
All right, everybody. Good to see you all tonight. Wanted to share a little bit more information regarding some of the more relevant topics, right? Interviewing was one of them. But everything, again, like I said last week, nothing's one-dimensional. Everything is multi-dimensional. So you can't go to the gym and eat like shit and expect to have, the fatigue, the physique that you're looking for. Right. And in cyber, you can't do the good work and not let anyone know that you exist. Right. And just how a great program like this is like we have I think a pretty great program. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I think our program is pretty solid in terms of the experience that we provide. But if people don't know we exist, right? So that's where marketing comes into play. So, all right, guys and gal, if you guys need me, you know how to reach me. Get to work. I see that we have Jalen and Dynasty are content buddies, so I'm expecting the output to be out of this world. I think Jalen, since he's been off camera the whole shift, I think he's actually been recording content this whole time, actually. That's actually what I think. All right, yeah, I gotta let you. It's been real. Been real.
All right.
Till next time.
Yes.
All right, good people. Everybody be good.
All right, everybody have a good night.
All right.
Yep.
So show me
Talk soon.
the eye.
Yes, sir.